Listen, since COVID, the magic of going to the movies has seemingly disappeared with the loss of theater etiquette, with rising prices and the grip of streaming services just increasingly tightening. It just feels like it's just not worth it for the average moviegoer when the movies with the highest marketing budgets, meaning the movies that you see all the time plastered everywhere, they're remakes, prequels, sequels, squeakquels, retellings of the same stories that you've seen dozens, if not hundreds of times. I mean, is it really worth it to go see this any movie when you're pretty sure that it's going to be on a Netflix, Disney, Hulu, HBO, Prime, on any of these services within a month or two? No. This in tandem with writer actor strikes of 2023 and a lot of big projects getting pushed and pushed back, it kind of looked like the movies were done for. The second largest chain in the United States had to file for bankruptcy. And the largest one, if it wasn't for that stupid meme stock craze, probably would have had to do the same thing. And maybe even worse, maybe would have had to close their doors for good. Going to the movies was becoming a thing of the past, not in a metaphorical sense, not in a figurative sense, but in a literal one. Not to pretend like there haven't been bright spots over that same time span. There have been plenty of movies that have made a shit ton of cash. We're talking Spider-Man: No Way Home, Avatar 2, Way of Water, Lilo and Stitch. We're talking Moana 2, Zootopia 2, Niza 2, I guess. Listen, a Chinese-made movie that wasn't even released widely in the States, being the highest grossing movie of any year, just, I think, proves the loosening grip that Hollywood has on the movie-going audience. And that's regardless of my opinion on some of these. Some of them are pretty good, like Zootopia 2, and some are true triumphs in quality, like a Barbie, like a Zootopia 2, like a Oppenheimer, like a Top Gun Maverick, like a Niza. Get out of here. No one's inviting you. With these occasional hits being talked about outside of just being mocked for Disney slop or another sequel of some franchise or a Chinese movie. And also, we're 3 years away from the strikes and people are finally being fed up with the rising prices of all of the streaming platforms that I named earlier. And there are constantly tensions just tightening in the world, and people are looking for quality escapism, some way to go and just tune out of the world for a two and a half hour length of time. You got AMC A-list, you got Regal Unlimited, you got whatever the fuck Cinemark is doing. These things are becoming almost a status symbol for a lot of Gen Z and younger people to have, not unlike an iPhone. Subscription services that these companies have are making the movie going experience a little bit cheaper. Disclaimer here, I know it is still very expensive. Why $12.49 for a large popcorn? What are you doing, Regal? Have you gone completely insane? If you can afford one of these memberships, maybe cut out a couple of the streaming services that you're currently paying for something like this, an easier way for you to go to the movies in whatever spare time you have. And with it, it pays for itself after you go twice within a month. And yeah, sneak in your own snacks. It's completely okay. I believe that it is becoming a much more viable option to go to the movies on a regular basis by the day. And look, 2025, I think, had 4 movies that really reminded me and others what quality movies can do, for the culture. Movies like Sinners, like Weapons, like Superman, and Marty Supreme all had a distinct role to play in revitalizing this culture, this communal space. Not only were each critically acclaimed, they all did very well at the box office. Now pause before you go and you look up and you say that Marty Supreme made less than $200 million. Hold your horses. Just because a majority of the last 15 to 20 years has been Marvel going on this godlike run of somehow just cranking out $1 billion after $1 billion after $1 billion does not, I repeat, does not create a new standard. If a movie has a $50 million budget, it simply does not need to make $1 billion to be considered a success. Sinners being cool as hell and breaking records for amount of Oscar nominations because it's just that damn good. Weapons establishing a fresh new voice in the versatile horror genre in Zach Craig. Superman inspiring people to be just extremely kind to each other, even if it was for just like 2 weeks, while also revitalizing the DC brand. That same DC brand, which, mind you, used to be the gold standard, the hotness when it comes to comic book brands that with movies and TV shows. I know it seems like a long time ago because some of you, I'm sure, that are watching this video weren't born yet. Marty Supreme had no business doing any kind of business, but on the back of a very likable and charismatic Timothy Chalamet that for some reason, I guess, doesn't like ballet or some shit. I don't care. But on his back, people just went to go see this movie because they like Timothy Chalamet. I cannot. This is one of the few movies that I saw just a handful of young 20 somethings, both girls and guys, just go watch by themselves. And it quietly was not quietly, it was in Oscar talks, but it was a profitable movie, a movie about a man's journey becoming the best ping pong player in the world and also being a dick. And I think that signals maybe the resurgence of the movie star. A movie just has a certain person in it that people really like and people go to watch it based solely on that. We haven't had that since Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in forever. In his last movie that came out, granted, it was a solid movie, made like $15 million in total. You know, I thought that the age of the movie star was dead and gone and Dwayne was the last one, but here we are talking about Marty Supreme that somehow was made bank simply because Timothy Chalamet was in it. With this building momentum and a crazy slate of upcoming films in the Big 2-6, I really feel like this might be a make or break year for this industry as a whole. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about 2026, the year of the blockbuster. At the time of recording this, we are 5 months into 2026, and it hasn't had big swings in the way that I kind of thought. However, you know, just from an anecdotal point of view, the movies, or at least my location, has been busier than normal. And like Super Mario Galaxy did not disappoint. It recently passed the $800 million mark. Is it going to make $1 billion like the first? Probably not, but it's made a crap ton of cash. Kids really enjoyed it. I'm sure that the third movie is on its way and possibly might be the birth of a new franchise or even cinematic universe. Now, I know that they've said that nothing's really on the slate for Super Smash Bros, but you make enough money, that slate's going to get filled up real quick. And most recently, the Michael movie, a movie that I was very excited for and actually argued with my boss on the pending success about it a lot, is doing extremely well. It broke the record for the most money in an opening weekend made by a biopic, not just a musical biopic, a biopic. It beat Oppenheimer, now grossing domestically over $97 million in just its first 3 days. Now, where it's at the time of recording, don't know. I'll put that right behind me, but it's a lot bigger. It's a lot, hasn't slowed down much. And listen, this movie is something that I was just so looking forward to as a kid that spent hundreds of hours singing along to Michael Jackson while riding in my aunt's car on the way to school, or even more hours in front of the TV watching the music videos for Thriller, Billie Jean, You Rocked My World, doing my best impersonation of Michael Jackson that myself as a large brown kid with severe asthma could do. It was my main form of exercise. Now, yes, the plot of the movie was a little bit thin. Even the stuff that it does cover, which it does skip over a ton, even the stuff that it does cover in Michael's early career, it could have dove in on a lot harder, taking a bigger approach. But also, this movie kind of knew what people wanted it to be by and large. Yeah, some people wanted to really dive into the controversies around Michael, but a lot of people just wanted to go in and enjoy the music and see it performed and be convinced that they were seeing the real Michael Jackson on screen. In that, it was complete and total success. I watched this movie in two different cities, of course, with two different audiences, and both times people were into it, man. We were dancing in our seats, we were singing along, we were voicing our opinions of the shitbag that was Joseph Jackson. I loved it, and it reminded me of how special Michael Jackson was, not only to me but to the world. And his music has been on absolute repeat ever since. I'm sure that those streaming numbers are way up, and whoever owns the catalog is making more money than the movie probably ever could. And it's not very often that my parents want to go to the movies. They probably want to more than I'm able to take them. That's besides the point. They did go and watch this, and they even loved it. And it was my understanding that they're not supposed to love anything except for me, so this movie must be fucking special. I mean, of course, it's there's been a renowned interest in the life and times and career of Michael Jackson. So I think early on in the year, this movie has been a resounding success, and its impact has been felt. And I personally cannot wait for part 2, in which there's a lot more controversies to cover. And I think if they skip over them somehow in the sequel, it would really perplex me and maybe irritate me a little bit more. But again, if they play Smooth Criminal, Who Is It, You Rocked My World, they fucking got me hook, line, and stinker again. But the movie in early 2026 that impressed me even more was Project Hail Mary. Project Hail Mary, as it stands right now, despite Michael being the only movie that I've watched twice, Project Hail Mary is my number one favorite movie so far. It's a sci-fi movie based on a book. It's not Dune. It's not Star Wars. It's not even Star Trek. There's no pre-existing movie franchise. It's not a remake of something. It's just something that did well, got people to go to the theater purely because it was damn good, and it was just visually spectacular. Fun fact about me, to go on a quick tangent, of which it'll be relevant, I promise. As I've mentioned previously in this video, I work at the movies. I am a deputy general manager, meaning I am second only to the GM, and I look to be a general manager very soon, unless someone saves me from that hell. But a little while ago, we had a corporate visit. My boss's boss, and other corporate entities, we'll call them, came by and toured our building. And in our building, we have this standing poster of what myself and my boss deemed to be like the 12 biggest movies of the year. Everything from Toy Story to Avengers to Dune to Masters of the Universe. And my boss's boss saw this poster and scoffed at the idea that we would include Project Hail Mary. He thought it was going to be an absolute ghost town. The movie was going to flop. It wasn't going to do shit. Well, guess what? I slapped him because now I have the last laugh. It has made over $600 million. And I will be taking his job within the week. Thank you very much, sir. Actually, at the time, I felt a little bad for my boss, because he is like a very loud, abrasive individual. But when his corporate overlords are in town, the man does change up, and I don't blame him for doing so. Everyone wants to be good at their job, and no one wants to lose it. But I felt bad for him because he actually put Project Hail Mary as the last movie on the poster on my vote. I saw the potential, and again, I'll be taking my new job within the week. But I felt bad for him at the time, because that movie that he got made fun of for putting on the poster was only on the poster because of me. But I think this movie making as much money as it has is a true triumph. Yes, the book was popular, very well respected, but this is just not the kind of movie that the average moviegoer. I count how many times I say movie or film or audience in this video, and I swear if you turn it into a drinking game, you're going to get absolutely plastered. But the average moviegoer would not gravitate towards this, because at the time Mario was coming out in 2 weeks. You could watch that, or you could take the family out to go watch Hoppers. A lot of people have kids, and a lot of people need to satisfy those kids. But my faith was restored. Ryan Gosling absolutely oozing charm in any marketing material for this movie. Rocky, the most endearing, I think, puppet in a feature film ever. It's a charming feel-good story about the end of the world that would really bring the world together, even in a real world that always kind of feels like it's ending. It was an inspiring film without the sympathetic villain or moral ambiguity, just two barely qualified scientists trying to save the stars. When I wrote this video, it was obviously on more screens, and it's on far less now. But if you have the chance before it goes to VOD or a streaming service, go watch Project Hail Mary on the biggest screen you can. If there's anywhere in the world still showing it in IMAX and you so happen to spawn there, then go watch it in IMAX. Damn it, I promise you won't regret it. It deserves your attention, and it deserves more money. We cannot move on today without talking about a few movies that still have yet to be released that are heavy on my radar, and I think the success or the failure of them will spell out that of the future of the exhibition industry or the movie theater. Why did I say it like that? That was cringe. However, I am crunched for time. We're using that take. No, not all of them are set up to make $2 billion, maybe not even $1 billion, but they will all in a different way give us some insight on the health of the blockbuster and the pulse of the movie going business. One that I'm interested in from the summer slate, probably the one I'm most interested in from the summer slate, is the Backrooms. I am an absolute whore for good, well-made horror. And horror is such a versatile genre. It can be a silly, campy slasher. It can be possession-based. It can be cosmic horror. It could be a serious slasher. It could be doomsday. You know, there's a ton of different things, but the most popular one ever since things like The Conjuring, Insidious, and Sinister is jump scare horror. Jump up in your seat, spill your popcorn, have an adrenaline spike that could have really went south if you had just like 2 more hot dogs that day. Jump scare movies have had diminishing returns, you know, ever since the success of those 3 that I had talked about earlier, some more than others. Some more have spawned clones of themselves within the same franchise, clones of themselves that have nothing to do with those franchises. And there's just so little innovation, so little bangers that now when a Conjuring related or Insidious movie come out, they just feel dull. They feel boring. People just don't come out to them like how they used to. As I'm writing this portion, Hokum did just come out. And Hokum, a movie I had pretty high expectations for, and it didn't disappoint at all. Is it jump scare horror? Yes. Is it really good jump scare horror? Also yes, and I highly recommend it. Go and check it out if you can, amongst the other really good horror movies that are coming out this year: Obsession, Passenger, and also The Backrooms. And with The Backrooms, we are getting a newly popularized kind of genre of horror, I think, for the first time on the big screen. I mean, the fear of liminal spaces, seeing a building or setting that just looks like it should be populated and you should see life or signs of life, but they just aren't there. It's uncanny. It's just not right enough to make you feel out of place, somewhere you should not be, despite there being no clear signs of danger. Or there's a decently lit, clean hallway that it's impossibly spotless. An abandoned building clearly for decades, but why is it still in such good shape? It looks like it's so clean. It's untouched. Mix those things with corporate conspiracy, scientific experiments, trying to understand this cosmic entity that we have no clue where to even start. And there is a ton of lore around this universe, a lot of which that I am unfamiliar with. People that I am big fans of are huge fans of this, so I am on board. And then they're using the original creator in Kane Parsons to direct and helm this film. He's only 20 years old and already getting his chance to become another established new voice in horror like Zach Kreger. I am rooting for this film so much. It has Chidwell Okafor, who played my absolute favorite part of one of my favorite movies in the life of Chuck. And look, like with the talent around this movie, with early comments and reactions, I really think that this has the potential to be the next Conjuring, Insidious, and Sinister, not in the style of horror necessarily, but in the way that they start a new trend over the next decade. And I am personally very, very excited for it. And I think we all should be, because horror is such an expanding genre. So it encapsulates so many themes, so much emotion, that I think it is absolutely critical. Some of the biggest blockbusters of all time that aren't thought of as a horror movie were horror movies. Next is a movie that I would have talked about first, but unfortunately my excitement for it was diminished after one of its trailers. It features a scene at the end of the trailer that I just would have loved to see for the first time on the IMAX screen when I inevitably go to watch it. If you've seen the trailer, you know exactly the scene that I'm talking about. If you don't, go ahead and pause the video and come back to me. I'll wait for you. If this movie came out following all timers like E.T. and Jurassic Park, like I mentioned earlier, in the mid to late 90s, a UFO movie using the Rockwell conspiracy kind of as a backdrop for the whole plot that's taking place way after that, fucking, it'd be the most circled dates on the movie release calendar. It's directed by the GOAT, Steven Spielberg. That's touching $1 billion in its sleep in 90s money. Write the check and leave it blank, because it's bringing people in. But I'm kind of concerned with how it might do in 2026, you know, surrounded by things like Supergirl, like Toy Story 5, a few weeks removed from Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm just not sure. I don't think this movie has any shot at touching $1 billion. I think its ceiling is maybe 400, 500 million, which is still a success. It's a shame that back in the day it would have made more. If this movie can get this new age of young, interested moviegoers to go and watch it and kind of make TikToks about it, talk about how it's unlike something they've ever seen, and then re-spark their interest in cinema, and get them to watch old Spielberg classics and really develop that palette and grow the appreciation for the art of what they're paying $20 to go see, then the movie would have done its job. The same people that talked a ton about the themes and also just plain straight up on the surface what they saw for Sinners, or went to go watch Marty Supreme by themselves, or even are still talking about a movie like The Arrival 10 years later, and then the movie did its job. And I think it would just be a beautiful thing to set up the next wave of great movie directors and filmmakers to capitalize on that, to honor the legacy of a Steven Spielberg who is not dead, and has at least another one or two movies left in him. But, you know, he's no longer in the prime of his career, and artists like Nolan, like Denis Villeneuve, and hopefully a lot more names after the assumed success of Disclosure Day. I do want to highlight something else that came out in the early, or it actually came out the same week as Mario, that I think is critical to the health of the business, and that was The Drama, starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, two of which are very recognizable names, or both are going to be in Dune 3 later this year. And The Drama is one of my 3 favorite movies of the year, and it's not number 3. It was incredibly funny, was not afraid to make jokes about an otherwise very serious topic, and I think it kind of towed that line for a lot of people. And I think that the premise got a lot of people talking. It was something that was fun to have a conversation about, even with people that don't know why you would ever ask such a question because they hadn't seen the movie. It's making money for A24, and I think that is so integral. On a budget of 28 million, as of writing this line, it's at 115 million, which turning a profit, making bank. I will put what it ended at right here behind me. Damn, that's a lot of squeesh. And again, I want to reiterate, 90% of movies are not trying to make a billion or even half or even a quarter. Success for most movies is a modest $100 million. And in a lot of cases, far less than that. These movies having success like that are perfect cherries on top to the big bowl of ice cream that is a Mario opening weekend. It's what keeps the theaters full and feel alive. And not only when they release on the same weekend as a big blockbuster, but also when they come out in the dead months of January to late March and then August into mid to late October. These are the times where we just expect no business. But every now and then, if a Megan can come out, if a Scream comes out, it just gives us that little boost to, essentially get us through the dead times. And these movies have just been lacking. There hasn't been a lot of carryover. There hasn't been a lot of just small films to sell out one auditorium during the weekend just to keep the business feeling alive. And if we can make more movies like the drama, then it'll hold us over. It'll keep us warm as we transition into the winter months. Things like that keep the heart pumping at rest in between the big BPM spikes during the summer and the winter holiday movie season. And speaking of winter, listen, weird transition, I know, but in July of 2023, we had this event called Barbenheimer. Maybe you've heard of it. It was one of the most lucrative, most cool weekends going to the movies ever. Two excellent, completely different style of movies. You have the perfect pairing of cinematic excellence from Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, paired with a far more poppy but also excellent Barbie movie. Girls and guys coming out in their best pink outfits that they could muster up, would leave, go have a bite to eat, come back in suits and watch Oppenheimer, probably on an IMAX screen. What a beautiful thing. So now you fast forward 3.5 years, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you it is happening again. December 18th will be the day that I have marked on my calendar. Probably for the rest of my life. It'll be the day that I'm looking forward to working, probably the least, and it'll be the hardest day at work probably that I'll ever have, because that is two movies that promise to be absolute epics on the big screen. Great wars fought in cinematic fashion, and that is Dune Messiah, a finale to possibly the greatest trilogy of my lifetime, and then also probably what will end up being the biggest box office movie of my lifetime, Avengers Doomsday. One of the greatest cinematic days for a certain shared demographic between these two films. But first, I want to talk about Avengers. Without exaggeration, this really has potential to be the biggest box office of any movie ever. Theaters are going to run out of the basics. Popcorn kettles are going to fail. Supply chains will deplete. And I wish I was blowing smoke up your ass, but please share this video with anyone you know so that I just maybe can quit my job before December. I am running out of time. The teaser trailers combined for over 1 billion views 3 days after the last one was released. We're talking 15-second clips. We aren't talking no full length, even a minute long trailer. We're talking clips, baby. RDJ is back as Doom, and he was the last reveal amongst Chair Watch. It was a live stream where simply the chairs of the several cast members of this movie were one by one revealed. That live stream has garnered over 275 million views. What the fuck? A whole 30 years of Marvel characters being reprised by the same actors that we know and love. And the rumor is that this script, despite probably not winning any Oscars, is going to satisfy that craving that comic books and MCU fans have been having since the end of Endgame. Something to at least touch that epic feeling at the movies. The word on the street is that this script has all that in a bag of chips, baby. Avengers Endgame that I mentioned is the second highest grossing movie of all time. The Avengers movie that came before it is the seventh. MCU, yes, has been a little hit and miss, but Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four both did well from a critical standpoint and did okay at the box office. And then later this year, we have Spider-Man, a movie franchise that never seems to miss. Momentum is picking up. It is returning to the MCU. So this movie is being set up to be huge. Again, like and share, get me out. But I talked about Disclosure Day, and the point of that was that its success only means good for the industry, and its failure is not really expected to make much. It'll be just fine. But with Avengers, success is the expectation. $1.4 billion is the least that any Avengers movie has ever made. That meaning that's the floor. It's making $1 billion as easy as I take my morning shit. It's making $2 billion if it's a fun time at the movies. It's making $3 billion if it's fucking excellent. But if it doesn't make at least $1 billion, that would be a horrendous sign. Because if this doesn't get people out, what will? Avengers Secret Wars? Maybe. But if they didn't fuck with this movie, then why would they fuck with its direct sequel? What else is Disney gonna pull out of their ass to get people back in the theaters in the big 2-7? I don't know. Will the box office health just solely depend now on DC with Batman 2 and Superman Man of Tomorrow? Maybe. I really don't think that this is a question that movie theater owners will have to face, but there's always a chance, Schrodinger's cat and all that. Overall, I don't want to end this segment on a doom and gloom note. This movie's going to do well, and I think there's no bigger box office slam dunk than Avengers Doomsday until maybe Avengers Secret Wars. But now for my most anticipated movie of the year. I haven't been so certain that I'm going to love anything since the last time I got a dog. And even then, that dog was kind of an asshole. Dune Messiah. I believe that Dune 2 is one of the greatest films ever made. I'll take that back. It is the best film I have ever seen. And I still say that my favorites are things like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Casino Royale, because I've seen those movies now for 10 plus years and I love them every time. I am still waiting for a rewatch of Dune 2, which would be my fourth watch of it. I'm gonna wait to prep for Dune 3, and we'll see what happens then. And since then, Timothée Chalamet has only grown in popularity and in favorability by one large brown man. Zendaya has only grown in popularity, hence the drama. Also mixing in her co-star Robert Pattinson and also another star like Anya Taylor-Joy. This movie is stacked. All directed by, I think, the #1 nominee to usurp the great Steven Spielberg in Denis Villeneuve. Early CinemaCon footage has some of the best reactions I've ever seen to anything. Mind you, this was on a show where they showed you the Avengers Doomsday trailer. They showed you shots of a lot of blockbusters, including Disclosure Day. The people that went and saw the footage will tell you Dune 3 was the best thing they saw, and it wasn't even close. But a movie this epic that I think this fantasy that has effects on the levels that will trick the eye into thinking that this was all shot on camera and they flew in actual spaceships, be a similar feeling to how people felt about Lord of the Rings the first time that they ever saw it. And I think that this trilogy is on par, excuse me for saying it, with the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, if not better. It will feel like you're watching Michael Jackson live and in person at Motown. It'll feel like your favorite team winning Game 7 of the World Series. It'll feel like when I watch Cody Rhodes finish the story. It'll feel like that feeling that we just don't get at the movies anymore. That feeling of, damn, they just don't make them like that anymore. But if this movie does well and you go out to see it and it's excellent, then I think they will. At least they should. This is that feeling that we're chasing. Our world, to quote the great Bo Burnham, is fucked up. We need an escape, man. And I think a lot of people find it in alcohol and drugs and gambling, video games. I just wish more people would find it going to the movies, because that is what I've done my whole life. Movies are my escape, and I want everyone to have a quality escape. And I know it's expensive, and you can make an argument that if a business needs to mark up the prices of their snacks as much as this business does, and maybe it shouldn't be one. But I promise you, if this year flops and more theaters start closing, it will be missed. We'll be lacking that escape. It is hard to see it right now because I know we are stressed. We know our wallets are thin. We know our pockets are tight. And it's just hard to see the movie going experience as being anything other than another stressor, another thing that you have to pay for. But if they start to go away, I promise you, the world is missing something special. A communal place to go celebrate and view these absolute works of art the way that the creator intended. In 2026, will show just how much longer we can depend on that experience, that escape, to be there. And that, to me, is why 2026, the return, the year of the blockbuster, really matters. Thank you for watching.